Okay, so we might actually hold another session tomorrow just to make sure we cover most students who might have missed on the lesson today. So Georgie and Jean, how's it going with the assignment too? So Georgie, how's it going with the... Yeah, Georgie is typing. Jean, you can talk.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I just thinking about the lesson plan. I go to the in-school one, but I feel like a bit...
But you cannot go to in-schools. You just cannot go to in-schools. This is not in-schools.
Okay, so I don't need to use that one?
No, you don't go. Did you go to module 4? Did you go to module 4?
I did go to module 4 and read the things there. And yeah, I know you say one of you say 3 steps to do that. And then yeah, I feel not very sure about what I need to do, especially for the short.
Well, but it's very clear. It's very clear. Don't worry about the short term. At this very moment, whatever the short term and long term, what's long term in education? It's always the capabilities and priorities. These are your long term goals. Short term goal, long term goal is not kids will spell. That's not a long term goal. Long term goal is kids will use tags critically, creatively. Self-transforming way. These are the long-term goals.
Okay.
But you shouldn't worry about it because you need to go to the module 4.
Yeah, I did.
And there
you go to 3 steps. Yeah.
You have here, it's written here quite clearly.
Yeah,
where is it?
Yeah, this all I already read through. And then
all of that, designing units of work, framework for structuring assignment 2.
I did this. I all look at this and then read them. And just thinking it's like a short-term goal. Do I need to cover everything?
Stop being teachery. What they do in schools is one thing, okay? And in schools, what we're trying to do at university is to actually get you out of the mode of thinking like the person who's been teaching in school for 10 years and has because what happens? If you are at university and you glorify schools, you go to schools, you learn from, and as you are at university, you're trying to learn how they do it at schools. And then when at school, you'll be learning how they do at university in order to get professional development and master's degree. This is just really weird. Instead of getting the professional development right now and get a bit of a bigger perspective, if students go to in-schools. I don't know who did the in-schools, and in-schools is a shortcut, and maybe you can use that shortcut later on. But first, I suggest that we actually learn to do things from first principles, as opposed to from, what's my short goals and long-term. As I said, first of all, long-term goals are always capabilities. Activities will have to integrate curriculum priorities, cross-curriculum priorities, and long-term goals are always capabilities, and that's all you need to know. And the rest, you need to know, well, how the heck do I work with the rest? And when you actually open the, say, because in your case, you will have the early years framework.
Yeah.
You have everything outlined.
Transition one. So
it's still early years framework, right? Or transition, do you want ACARA? So then if you want ACARA, then you go to the next one, which is you work with the ACARA if you want to. And it's very much similar. They're basically just about the same text. So basically what I suggested to you is you've got here capabilities. This is what you need to think about. This is what you need to do first. And I identified the process, right? So you need to go thoroughly, and it's very different because what in schools they say, they'll say, what vocabulary do you want to teach them? Well, I want to teach my children 10 words this week. Oh, really? And when they are at home, how many they learn every day? 1 million. Just as well they have a home, because if our students learn to speak and to write in English only in schools, they would never learn a thing because we treat them as disabled. Right? So don't start with the vocabulary, don't start with all of that nonsense there. What I totally try to actually convince you to do, actually work with principles. And basically here, when you start with a step one for that ACARA framework, it says to you things like, go to other people, the people who know your children, you know, the community, the parents, the whoever, and discuss what their social and personal transformation needs are. And it's very important to start with this way, because we need to actually not only to account, we need to set up our goal in terms of what's involved in all of this, what is it that we're all trying to do. And we're not trying to teach them to recognize words and letters. We want them to recognize all of that as part of being in the world, not as part of being in the classroom. And that's very important. And I might just focus tomorrow again on this in more detail, but today we have this very good class, which I think it raises really important things. What I'm saying is, when you go to school, and I've been at every conference possible, indigenous conferences, regular conferences, and basically continuously there's the same problem, which is, how do we engage community? And I'm thinking, the curriculum tells you how to engage the community. If you have to actually account for the social and personal transformation, which is one of the key capabilities, you can't design your learning experiences without actually identifying what's your goal. And you can't identify the social and personal transformation without actually engaging the community. So I suggest we just do it, so today is just a little learning awareness. And I would like, I'm sure that I have videos there about how to do it in detail, but it doesn't really matter. Today, we're talking just about this little framework. If you could just basically look at this and read that, then read
I did
this,
that.
and then answer questions. Do this, then do that, and then do that, right? So just, I mean, rather than thinking that I want you to redo what they do at school, use them in schools and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to use in schools because in schools is not coming together. It's not associated with any theoretical framing. It is someone has come up with some idea and they have it, and I'm not sure where they got it from, and it's not actually accounting for Lewis research. What I really want us to actually do is to work with the principles we had in the assignment 1, which is, let's think about the social place of the child. And in order to do that, you have to actually identify the objectives that you want to attain and address in your series of lessons. You need to get them from the community. You can't do it on your own, because that's what happens. Aboriginal children get disengaged. Vietnamese children feel alone. Australian children might not be happy with your choices. So what I'm saying is the process is here designed for you to actually think for yourself how you would answer these questions. So it's step 1, then you have step 2, and then you have step 3. It's very, very simple. Just follow it and trust the process and do it what you would think is bad. Just do it badly. I'm very happy with the reflective process that is done badly. I am not happy with the imitation of in-school structure and basically applying this, you know, by imitating people, but without actually intense understanding of what's behind it. Whereas here you have a framework and you have questions to answer and think about. And at the end, of course, I explained to you how you can actually do assessment and reporting in a way that is unbeatable, and everybody in school and in the education departments will accept it, right? But it's not done this way because people don't engage thoughtfully in say, for example, in the methodology of literacy. They basically do continuously the same things, and everybody knows that these are that things we do is actually not theoretically actually consistent or coherent, that we've just been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years, so we're just repeating it. So basically what I'm suggesting is, if this is our unit, ELA 200, draw on the materials in the unit. Because even if you do go to somewhere else, like in schools or whatever, you still need to justify what you do in relation to the materials in the unit. Because I am not here to assess in schools. I'm not assessing whatever in schools is providing there. I'm assessing what we have in ELA 200.
I didn't do ELA 100 because before I did.
But I am assessing, Jean, ELA 200, not ELA 100. You do not have to take ELA 100 in order to do ELA 200. You see, there is no progression. I mean, I have students who do ELA 200 in the 4th year. So there is no logical progression. So you don't have to feel disadvantaged. I think it was great you went to in schools, and that was a good attempt, but that framework from in schools comes with the whole story, which is not the story of ELA 200, and it will create problems. I'll just have a look what Georgie is saying. Georgie, are you saying anything? And I also provided in the module 4, other than the framework, I provided activities, I provided examples of how to actually plan the unit of work. So all of this is there, it's present. All of this is present there. All you need to do is just open the links.
Yeah, I did read that, all of that. And
apply it, work with it. If it says in step 1 you must do this and this and this, you just do that. Trust that. So obviously you will not go. So for example, if you go to the step 1, which says to you, identify students' needs by basically, talking to people. Clearly, you will not do that. But from imagination, you can say, parents, what would parents say? Well, what would academics say? What would experienced teachers say? What would the community say, which is the community you have around the school? Like, for example, you have I don't know about where you live, but in Australia, I mean, you live in Australia, but okay, you're in Darwin, Jean. So every school in Darwin has a cultural officer. And very often these cultural officers are not well used. I know schools where they are very well used, but you go to the cultural officer and say, look, I'm designing this unit of work. My kids are 5. What do you think in terms of social capabilities? What kind of needs? I mean, you have to read it exactly what I say here. I can't remember. I can't read it. My thoughts are somewhere else at this very moment. But you just read it carefully and you just answer the question. And you can imagine, like, what would my cultural officer advise me? The cultural officer very often is an indigenous officer. But so I'm not quite sure whether indigenous officers cover all aspects of the diversity of our community. But if they don't, then you look for other networks that your school has, and our schools are all connected. And we have, Chinese community with the normal parent community. Those parents can take you to different people. And basically, the community tells you about themselves. And it's a fascinating journey for the teacher. Before I plan anything, I'll just I'll have a meeting in the school, community meeting. I learn from the community what kind of skills they have. That's not done. Oh, today we're just doing, merry-go-around. Merry-go-around, sit down on the merry-go-around. And merry-go-around went around the merry-go-around all week. right? And then, what did you see? I saw merry-go-round. How do you spell merry-go-round? And just goes on and on. It's completely white. It's completely dissociated from students' lives. It's irrelevant, and so on. So it's really important for our lessons, even if they are with transition children, that they are inside of their community and that they can actually learn about their community. So they use language and literacy in order to contribute to the community. So you will see some ideas inside of Module 4 where I strongly advise or encourage you, if you work with transition children, let's assume they are all Australian. You don't have any indigenous students and you don't have any Chinese students or anything, no Polish people. It's not going to happen, but let's assume that. But you've got those people in the community. What if your children created an audiobook or a book to entertain people in an aged care or in some community forum? And they create this with all kinds of devices that I teach you to do it with. And they take this text, they shove it on Google Translate, and it comes out in Vietnamese. And you would say that's cheating. Really? They learn that you can use Google Translate, that there is such a device, and it pops out in those funny characters. So they learn that there's Australian or English characters, and then there are other characters. Oh my God! What about any other? So what other countries do you know? What other people have you met? Arabic people, we met Polish people. Really? Let's have a look how their alphabet looks like. And it becomes an amazing discovery series of lessons, right? So the series of lessons are no longer A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. It's like an amazing community experience. And children learn there are different alphabets, and they learn about ICT applications like Google Translate. They copy and paste, and they create the same book they created in English in 500 languages. Right?
So can I put this like a proposal of literacy, like this kind of? I just put like a background, student background, in like an introduction, and then when I finish this, and I start a lesson plan.
Just go through the Module 4 step by step. Try not to take shortcuts, because at this very moment all you want to do is to create 5 simple lessons. And look, I took them to the zoo, then we spelled out the names of animals, and then we created a book with all these words, and then we went home, and that was wonderful. Okay, so what critical thinking did it teach them? Whatever I told them. Yeah, great. But what internally, how did that internally affect them? What internal transformation did that create? Well, I don't know. Ask them, Anya. Well, yeah. But what was your plan? Whatever. You see, so and I'm saying that because I get presentations like this in assignment 2, and you know what? I don't mind it. You can simplify the 5 lessons as much as you wish, but because the point is really, it's not the ELA 200. What I want you to do through ELA 200 is actually truly engaged in the way of how to think of designing coherent series of lessons. Let's call them units of work. Because it is important to start changing the culture in schools so that we actually do account for capabilities which are the higher order thinking skills. Right? We really need to make them present, and they are not present in schools, and I can tell you because I work with teachers in schools, and I know, and I get their units of work designs, and I can tell you they're just not very good units of work designs. They're just not. They have no capabilities. Everything is kind of chaotic, and everybody knows it because it's hard. So what I gave you with this framework, I gave you a process for reading the curriculum, right? The curriculum is like any text, and any text has to be read and understood, and people find it difficult. So I gave you a process for working or for understanding or working with the curriculum. And what I suggest is to go through the module 4, especially the sections which talk directly about designing units of work, and just play with it, listen to it. You need to spend 10 hours per week on ELA 200 alone, because that's how it theoretically it's requested, right?
So more than 10 hours every week.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good, because at the end of the day, this is your professional development. I mean, at the end of the day, you will go to school and you have a skill, instead of every day facing, how am I going to design a unit of work? Whereas here you have a process, and you can, once you do this exercise, you will actually get the process. And once you have a process, you can generate many. And as I said, this one is designed from research and in relation to actually address children critical, emotional, and personal and social needs. Just play with it. Don't be scared of those words. Just have a look and show me the monsters. You know, meet me next week. Let's assume we don't create a session tomorrow. We create a session next week, so we don't have to wait 2 weeks for the next session. Let's assume. Let's do it this way. In order to finish assignment 2 well, we're gonna just meet every week from now on. And so let's meet next week on Wednesday, and you will show me a PowerPoint or whatever, your lesson designs, or however you address these 3 steps in those frameworks, in the framework, and you say to me, look, Anya, I did it and it looks nonsense. And I prefer that. I prefer it to look bad, but working with the model, as opposed to aping someone and then not learning real skills. You know, when you have someone designing saying to you,
yeah, I'm not quite sure tomorrow, because I got another ELA 201. They got the online session as well at 4 o'clock as well. So
at 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
At 4 o'clock you have EAL 201?
201, yeah.
At 4 o'clock, like at this very moment?
Yeah,
so it's happening right now? It's happening right now?
Yeah, tomorrow at 4 o'clock is ELA.
No. What I'm saying is we're not going to have a session tomorrow. We're going to have a session next week. So from now on, we would have sessions every week. So before we had sessions every 2 weeks, but now we will have them every week to make sure that students go through assignment 2 supported.
Oh, but I don't know about that, because I schedule my work next week to closing, because at the moment my supervisor, she's not there, so I need to organize the work for everybody. So,
well, anyway, it doesn't matter, Jim. So you can come every second week, but I'm gonna teach every week from now, because so some students can make
so maybe I just listen to the recording.
Yes, for example, yeah. And what I'm saying is, just like we did with assignment 1, start submitting on the discussion board whatever translations you have of this framework. Just submit something. This is what I did, and just don't go necessarily with lesson design and all of that. First, you have to frame it. So start with step 1 of the process of framing, and just say, this is what I did, Anya. How does it look? And I will tell you. But if you say to me, I'm gonna do what is it called? This any story. When people start with a story, what I don't understand is, what are students to do? Why is the story the channel for? Why is the particular text a channel for contributing to the community? We need to first start with students. Students need to design a task for themselves. This is what I'm teaching in this unit. Normally what is propagated in schools because of difficulty in changing the culture is that teacher comes and teacher tells students what they must do, and nowadays with this all kinds of things that are happening in education, you continuously tell your students more and more and more. but there are no strategies of how to actually get students on your side and students themselves take power over what they want to do. So you will see, if you go through Module 4, you will see there explanations how to actually enable children. After you design your, say, what is it that you want to do here, you get information about community and so on. So you learn through Module 4 of how to make children meet the community and then do things for the community, and how to actually take charge of the projects they will create. So meeting the community and learning about the community is more the requirement than I will do some kind of book first. I mean, why would you want to start with your choice? Why not start with children's choice? Another thing is, say even if you have a geography class, because some of our students are actually from middle school and from high school. In different states we call it differently. But for example, like you learned about my friend Thea if you go through Module 4. So Thea had to make a presentation in classroom about on any chosen topic, right? The problem was that the teacher designed this task because the teacher didn't think much, and it was in Sydney actually. And she goes to a prestigious school in Sydney, and the Sydney teacher says, oh, just do the presentation in class. Well, anybody can say that. My mother could have said it, oh, just do a presentation in class. My mother's 86, and she could have come up with just as good an idea as this one. But the question is, if you want, as a geography teacher, for your students to actually engage literacy skills. So what's important now is that children actually learn about the community and how their text, their presentation is to contribute to them. Right? So for example, I didn't show in that description in that Module 4 what else Thea could have done. But what has the presentation on Pompeii to do with other cultures? I mean, Thea is not engaging people's interest in that area. She just says, oh, well, there was a Pompeii and things blew up, and it shows about the fragility of life. Right, so what? What connections is she making? None. Right, but so basically geography teacher didn't care. But if we have literacy across the curriculum, it would have been appropriate for geography teacher to actually engage a literacy teacher or English teacher and say, how can I think of a task and how can I support my students in doing this particular task in a way that makes literacy a social tool, not just a way to just recite a presentation with no concern of anything. The same with sciences, right? I make students do a PowerPoint on water, right? Saving water, right? That is a good one. Well, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. Wouldn't it be interesting actually for the science teacher to actually learn from the community officer or from the literacy person as well about how to actually create interesting tasks that make a difference to the community. And I'll give you an example. There's a number of examples, but one I can think of is if you actually are an addict to YouTube, which is what I am. On YouTube, there's 5 billion of videos created by the top scientists in the world on everything, water conservation, on anything. Students could create an innovative video on water management, say in Arnhem Land, or something relevant to Darwin, which is of educational value to anyone, as opposed to just I'll just do a presentation, just put a couple of pictures there. Yeah, that will go. Put some names underneath it. Yep, that will do. I mean, it has no connection to the curriculum. It's not really generating any personal transformation. And kids cannot, all, for the rest of their lives, point to it and look at this, we made a difference. Look at this, it was sitting in an aged care center and people were learning about gravity waves. You know, so children should learn about that. They talk about gravity waves in a particular way in a physics class, but when they want to actually talk about it to people externally, like outside of school, they change the genre, they talk about it differently, right? And they learn about differences between genre. One is kind of very table-bound and very, you know, strict. The other one, now, for the, and this sort of present, and the other one is of a different kind, but making these connections between science genre and the more communicative genre in terms of talking to the community, it's really important because when children, those tasks are very important because when students need to explain to older people about gravity waves in their own language, what's called plain language, they find it challenging. In fact, this is when they find how little they actually understand of physics. Because when you actually try to explain it in your own words, you find out that you don't understand it. So these tasks of doing things for community, creating a video for other children, for children from another school, for children in Cambodia. Do you know how many CDU has a MOU, which is Memorandum of Understanding, whereby we have promised to the Ministry of Education in Cambodia that we will support them through teaching and research, right? We will support their schools and their teachers through teaching and research. Wouldn't be lovely if children in a school in Darwin, in science, were producing videos and materials like with a plain English language, right, in plain English language about all kinds of things. It would have been useful for our students. It would be amazing for the kids in Cambodia who are learning English, by the way, since they, I don't know, very small. Definitely when they are 10, but most schools they learn since they are 4 years old. So that would be lovely. I mean, the world needs connections and the world needs contributions. So texts need to be used in order to do things. Text in itself is nothing. We don't read a text in order to read text because it's a boring activity. But if we look into text as resources that enable us to do amazing things. So if you want to use learn how, say, physicists, famous physicists talk about events like gravity waves in plain English, go and have a look. Get transcripts of their lectures. Have a look on YouTube, it's plenty of it. So you then use any text in order to help you how to entertain other people or how to be informative and contributing to other people. As opposed to today we did this text, tick. Tomorrow we do the other text, tick. It's not exciting. And I call it it's not exciting, but curriculum would say it's not connected to the curriculum. It's just connected to old practice from the 19th century. So just before I ask you for questions, when I explain things this way, when I'm inviting you to actually work with my framework and answer the requests in this framework and see how it will actually help you to design something in an innovative way, in a way also that is connected with the curriculum, and we'll see how to work with it. So you've got all these things here. This is all here. All the, in designing units of work, all the materials you need are here. I'm just saying this is document, this is document. I'm just going to have a look where I've yeah, I'm just going to have a look at some videos. Maybe I have some videos that I didn't actually put in yet here. But I might add them. I'll put them in the announcements or somewhere here. If I find any video that I want you to see, I'll just put it here. I just have to check. Because I can see there's documents mainly. I put documents here mainly because students some students hate watching videos because they are just like 50 minutes long or 30 minutes long. They prefer text. But sometimes video actually explains things very well. So I might actually see what videos I have and maybe give as an example. Okay, we have a text here from Georgie. The readings are interesting and really force you to let go of prior learning and think about new way of teaching. Thinking about lesson plans that engage the children in the community. Really loved looking at the Outcast resource. Yeah, it's great. I've used it in Parap, primary Parap. And my 9-year-old loved it. It's great. And I can begin to see ways in which I can use it to compare and contrast. Session next week sounds good. Yes, Georgia, we're going to do it next week because I think that this is a very, as you said, it's really, this unit is different. It does ask you to actually break with the past. And, yeah. And you know what, when you go to schools, at least you have seen another way as opposed to always the same way. And then you can pick and choose, but at least my students will leave CDU with an alternative. And then if you go to school, and if they ask for leadership examples, you can say, well, look, this is how we do things, and this is another way I have seen at university. Take it or leave it, but this is what we have designed and there. And you give people freshness as opposed to continuously the same things. I have met students because I'm a CDU colleague, which means that if you go to a particular school, you on practicum, you actually have a care of a CDU teacher. And I think I'm a CDU colleague at Parap, and I have met students who were with me at ELA 200, and they used the units they designed with me in ELA 200, and it worked well, and I was surprised. But, you know, but they dared, and they did, and they got all the freedom they needed to actually do it. So that was good. So there, and I think that this group, this summer group, actually has gained on a lot of learning that I have done over the last 4 years because of a lot of things that have happened here. So I think that you have it much more, you have it easier in a sense that even, you know, a year earlier. I think it's, so I'm really happy. The message is the same, but I think that the links are, there's more things happening here, more clear and, you know, there. All right, my friend. So I might actually, if we don't have any more questions, what we might do is have the session next week and for the rest of the semester every week to be of help. So that we don't just sit on the discussion board, but we also can talk about it. And meanwhile, I will also try to find that video with some examples of how to work with the curriculum. But I think that I've got some ideas already. But anyway, I will check. Meanwhile, I will check and I'll post it for everyone to see. Okay, Jean, are you happy? Do you have some questions?
So you mean like need to be use the Word document, or like you say we need to use?
No, you can use it. You can write it in Word. You probably will be better off writing it in Word because you need space.
Yeah.
And Jean, have you seen the Outcast?
No.
Yeah. Make sure that you do. Have you seen speech to text? I mean, you can teach. You can create, and I've done it in Vietnam. You can create. So with people who actually don't even speak English as a native language, you can take children who have no literacy skills. You can take 5-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and they can create a book without actually being able to spell. That's what technology allows you. What technology allows is children having greater control over what actually they see and how they read what they see, because the computer is now talking back to them, and also the computer is displaying things on the screen. So when you say "I love you," all of a sudden there are 4 blocks coming up. Like one block, love, and the second block, I love you, three blocks, right? So there are 3 sets of words popping out. So all of a sudden they say I love you is kind of like, yeah, that's 3 different words. Why is it? Because you can say I love him. So what will change? Him and you. Oh my goodness. So what typically someone like me who has a PhD in linguistics, I would say, well, they do substitution drills, right? But we're not going to tell a 5-year-old they do substitution drills. All of a sudden they see that there is a relationship between what comes out from their face, from their mouth, is popping on the screen as they speak. When I say I love you, the computer shows I love you. And it shows it by separating words. And they learn about word separation. So what normally was an enormous lesson on word separation, blah, 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 you can do it with a 4 or 5-year-old in no time. In fact, they see it all the time on the streets and everywhere. But you can do that. And then they can actually play with it. So it's in a playful way. You say, well, what's the meaning of 3? Why do we have 3? And they don't know, so they start playing. They will say, instead of saying I love you, you want them to say I love him and I love it and I love them, but they won't do that. Some of them will, and some of them will do, we will be here. And so in a playful, discovery, exploratory way, they will learn reading. Now this is something I wanted to say to you, and I probably should put those links for some of our students who actually like doing things around the curriculum. So whatever we have in ELA 200 is one thing, but what you don't know, and I'm not sure whether I integrated it in this ELA 200 because, it's only 12 weeks. But what happens is that your brain only learns through exploration, right? So they have done this to miserable rats, and I don't know what other animals they've done it to. You can remove the entire brain of an animal, except that you leave I think you should leave the limbic system. You have to leave because it's connected to your breathing and so on. But I think they left the hippocampus. I'm not quite sure. But that's it. The rest of it, all the frontal cortexes, all these other things, whatever is in your brain, that they just remove it. And the animal does everything normal. You wouldn't be able to tell whether this particular animal has a brain or doesn't have a brain. There's one difference, though. One difference is that every creature on this planet learns not what Vygotsky is saying. And remember, Vygotsky lived 100 years ago. They didn't have computers. They didn't have the thoughts that we have today, right? So every creature doesn't learn by being shown how to do things, but through exploration. So what happens with the rat, with the brain, when the rat encounters an obstacle or a challenge that they can't solve, that the rat cannot solve, the rat then goes to the left and to the right and checks things, what do you call it? Playing I forgot the word for it, but you play with your errors, right? Then you just explore which solution will work, and all of these moves and experiences are stored in your frontal cortex. That's why next time you go through the same situation, you no longer explore, because you remember it got stored as circuits in your frontal cortex. However, if you do not have the cortex area in your brain, which is what the rat won't have unless when they remove just practically the whole brain out of the rat will do everything, will do everything socially right, but every time they encounter a problem, they will be engaging in an exploration over and over and over again because they cannot store the circuits of shortcut. But they remember what is primary to them. The primary behavior is to explore. And you know it too, because if you found yourself in the desert and you wanted water, you wouldn't be oh my God, there is no master, there's no expert to ask to be shown how to find water. What am I going to do? Just die now? No, you would explore. You'd think, oh my God, what do you think water is? Where do you think water could be? And so on. That's why today some people can make water out of air. Because they thought, what's water? It's hydrogen, there's plenty of that in the air. It's oxygen, there's plenty of it in the air. Let's combine it, we get water. It was as simple as this. So the whole pedagogy that I am doing here in this unit is actually not an new thing, right? Like, oh my God, I'm a new Vygotsky. I am sitting on evidences from psychology and neuroscience here, and also semiotics, but you know, who nowadays wants to know that? But on hard evidence from medical sciences, which will tell you over and over again that learning, we can only learn through exploration. It is through exploration, by looking at things from different angles. It is when we create the circuits which are the shortcuts. That's why we age socially. And socially aging means we have created those shortcuts, but we're no longer interested in exploration, right? So you see it in old people, they continue to do the same thing. Very often academics don't look around. They don't explore other readings. Oh, we always were reading Vygotsky, we will die with Vygotsky, we will always read Vygotsky, we will teach Vygotsky, Vygotsky, Vygotsky. Oh my God, guys, Vygotsky wrote in 1926. Today we have 2026. For 100 years, do you think there was no science? Do you think that for 100 years nobody worked? It's just because nobody reads or delivers to you anything doesn't mean that for 100 years in the area of psychiatry, psychology, and medicine there was no single person that has worked. I mean, honestly. I mean, I am into conspiracy theories, and I can tell you, you know, I've covered it all, and I can tell you that, you know, maybe people, you know, whatever. But, you know, the idea that there are people in America and in Australia that have never done a piece of work for the last 100 years is stupid. Right? So what I'm trying to do is to bring it to you. So one of the elements that I'm trying to do, maybe through these collaborative lessons, I can add to whatever we have in the module, but one of them is exploration is the prime process by which we learn. And, you know, I can quote you now people who are famous, like people who actually were the most famous people in artificial intelligence. The guy was so famous, but he died now. I forgot his name at this very second. Minsky, Marvin Minsky, right? He's the professor in artificial intelligence, just died the other day, the most famous guy. And he said, you don't understand anything unless you understood it in more than one way. And that's what technology allows you. You type this letter, and someone says it, and you go, oh my God, so what do children do? I mean, you've been with children, then they will type this letter, and they will type this letter, then they will type this letter, then they will type, and it just goes on. And you couldn't do it as a teacher in classroom because you would go crazy. But if you have, and yeah, I strongly advise, you always have about 4 children in a group, plus minus 1, so maybe 3, maybe 5, working with one computer, and typing things into it and playing with it. And imagine, every time they want to hear something, a machine says it to them. You couldn't, for 25 children, say every letter in 500 different ways as required by every student of yours, right? Because you'd go crazy, but the computer can. And you let them do. So they type their name, they see their name on somewhere written, they go Anya, the computer says Anya, then they type again, and they misspell it, and now the computer says it differently. And they go, oh my God! So every time I play a different letter, it says, what about that? And he can't pronounce it. It sounds really funny. And they just go on and on and on. And through play, they learn to read and write. So have a look at those strategies that I actually discussed there. I hope they're all there. Inside of the PowerPoint, you have videos. So so click on those videos. So you click by hovering your mouse on the video and try to find the play button. This is how it's done in PowerPoint. I can't change it. So you hover it and you listen to it, and it quite nicely says. So it gives you 300 different games that are there, or games or tools, technology-based tools. And I discussed them also. How children can actually, through play, learn relationships, all kinds of sound-based relationships and reading-based relationships, right? And actually play with it, but in order then later on to construct something for someone, right? So great. So Jean, have a look at those because you know, children overseas are using this, but children in Australia are still learning with the teacher going with the joint phonics, right? And children being absolutely bored. We're living in the 21st century, and the teacher still runs with a piece of paper and a pen. Cursive writing, don't get me wrong, is extremely important. Cursive writing is more important than anyone gives it a credit, right? So that's important. But in this particular unit, we're interested in reading and into reading, and I'm not discussing, you know, about cursive writing, and I do actually a little bit when I mentioned somewhere in one of the PowerPoints. I talk about, you know, playing with culture and you know, inviting a person from Chinese community and teach your students calligraphy. You play the Chinese music, you know, peaceful music, meditational music, they learn calligraphy, you turn the whole class into a Chinese experience. Fantastic. That's amazing things to children's brains and children's motor systems. Just fantastic. But when it comes to actually reading, which is what the object of this unit is, I want you to play with technology, because technology allows children to see things and relate things that you don't see as a teacher. And you cannot, because you're not in every child's head. The idea that you can teach them just by presenting things, it's a nonsense. It's a child has a brain on his or her own with experiences and circuits that you cannot control, nor do you have a faintest clue what's in their head. So the idea is to provide students with tools so that they can look at things in more than one way, play with them, turn them around, twist them, make them incomprehensible, make them funny. And you know, if you're working with transition children, you just put up. And the energy is important to have this energy, as opposed to in a discipline-based, old-fashioned phonic class where everybody's scratching their heads and getting bored out of their brains. Because none of that is in the phonic class is what they want to do. If the teacher doesn't have a student on his or her side, the child is bored, tired. It becomes a real, you know, at the age of 5 or 6, we put them through routines of discipline, and but they don't last 1 hour, they go forever. And you know, I'm not unhappy with exercises with drills and all of that, plenty of it on the internet, and you'll find it on my own website. But put them at the end. So when children were playing with speech-to-text and text-to-speech and all kinds of things, and creating text and with Google Translate and having fun, then at the end, it's a summary. We can have some phonetic exercises using free online games. Great. Do that. But the main game is not that. That's just a summary. The main game is exploration, and the summary is just at the end. It's like any text. The main game is the middle of the text. The conclusion is great, but the middle of the text is what allows you to see the relationships between the argument, and the summary is just a summary which just condenses everything. So if you want to run a BBC-based, you know, BBC game on spelling, on this and that, they're fantastic. I played with them. I use them with second language students as well in English. Great. But this is not where the main game is. The main game is not the drill. The main game is students feeling and exploring and knowing that they do it for purpose. Like, oh my God, we're going to do a book for someone. We can do a book with this. It's so easy. We're going to do a book. We will be like big people. We're going to do a book. We create a class book, you know, with our photos and what's best about me, you know? And technology makes it simple. So just like you and I don't have to worry about spelling because we have a spell checker, the children can, you know, especially little children, can create an audio book or written book simply by dictating to the speech-to-text computer the text. And you think it's cheating? No, because the computer sometimes gets it wrong. So you go, how do you know you got it right? I don't know. So how can you tell? How can we tell whether the computer got it right? Well, we can make it say it. But speech-to-text doesn't actually say it, doesn't read it. Oh my God. Well, how about if we checked it through another application? Okay, so let's check it. Okay, so you can check it through another application. What other tools do we have? Well, we could find out if we said, I live in Australia. All right, how do you know that the computer said it, that you live in Australia? Well, we don't know because we can't read. So you said, I live in Australia, and speech to text has produced a text. And you don't know as a 5-year-old whether it really said it well. So what you do, you can say, well, how many, since we know that the computer spits out things in words, let's have a look whether it's the same amount of words. How many words are in I live in Australia? 4? Okay, how many words do you see on the screen? 4. Oh my goodness, it looks like a good chance, right, that we got it right. Yeah? All right. And then you just play with it. And I discussed in those PowerPoints how to play with that. So that's what I want to look for. I would like to see this kind of play-based environment in your PowerPoints. And it doesn't matter whether you work with grade 12 or grade 2. I want to see the play, because play is not play. Play is an ethical environment enabling students to explore relationships and the power of the relationships that they have in their heads, right? Play is an ethical way for children to explore their power, explore the impact of their own understandings. And it's ethical because we give them a safe space to check it in more than one way, as opposed to, this is the exercise, this is the material you must remember, this is how you do it, and I want to say this next week, mastered, you will be examined. Exams are great, but not exams in order to kill people, but, you know, the kids go, oh my goodness, you know, let's see whether we will get it right this time. And also kids can examine themselves as they do things. And you can too, but what I'm saying, use exams as a learning experience, not necessarily as a opportunity to punish people because they didn't memorize what you understood. So I think that when we wanted to finish this class, I think we went on for much longer than I expected. And all of this because Georgie mentioned the online tools, which are just free, great. And if you can use Oddcast free on the iPad or on any sort of mobile device, you can use it on the computer. Apparently you can buy it as well. I don't know how much it's to buy. The price has changed. So when you buy it, so you can actually put more text in it. But you know, as it is free, you can put about 2 sentences in it. That's plenty. Plenty of space. And you know, modern kids will relate to it. Okay, my friends, thank you for being here. If you have no questions anymore, we might close it, and I'll see you next week. Great. Yeah. Oh, we want us to think a little bit. You know, if anyone can imitate, we just want to use this ELA 200 to learn some other things and see how we go with it. That's all. Okay, my friends, I'll see you next week. See you later. Bye.